Hi, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Amber Brown. I'm the Marketing Director for Legacy Tree Genealogists. Legacy Tree is a professional genealogy research firm, and we complete client research for people all over the globe. We've been in operation since 2004, so we have a little bit of experience when it comes to client research, I would say. And today we're going to talk about how to get the most bang for your buck when you're hiring a professional genealogist and what you need to look for when you look to hire a professional. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we will go ahead and get started. All right, hopefully you can all see that. All right, have you ever felt like this when you're trying to figure out a tough genealogical puzzle? If so, you're definitely not alone. Inevitably, we'll all encounter that elusive ancestor, that family history mystery, or that genealogy brick wall that we just can't seem to overcome. No matter how much you love following that ancestral trail, there will be times when your best path to success comes through the help of a professional genealogy researcher. So today we're going to explore a few different things. One, what hiring help may be appropriate. Two, how to find the best fit for your needs. And three, how to make the most of a professional's time. All right, so hurdles and walls, what are some of yours? Here's just a few examples of common genealogy brick walls that we encounter. Any of these sound familiar to you? We've got record destruction, language barriers, conflicting evidence. You get the idea. The list can go on and on. Okay, there are indeed many reasons why at one time or another, many people decide to hire a professional genealogist for help. One common reason we see is that research involves a foreign language or location. So here's just a few of the countries that our clients and their ancestors are from. So we've got a pretty good list here, and again, we're always expanding this as well. Another reason we often see is simply a lack of experience or knowledge. Let's be honest, not everyone can be good at everything, which is why we have a worldwide network of genealogists who specialize in specific regions and topics, but we do have an expert for nearly every research obstacle. A professional genealogist researches in an area and time period over and over again, so they get really familiar with it. They know the common challenges and obstacles that arise in that area and how to overcome them. Here's just a few examples of challenges our researchers have seen and some client feedback we've received. So this one comes from Deanna. She says, "You were able to help me break a block that has plagued me for years." And then Gail said, "Through my DNA and your researchers, you were able to find a relative that had been elusive for 30 plus years." And that's feedback we'd love to receive. So other reasons people may choose to hire a professional, simply lack of time. Let's be honest, life is busy. And sometimes it's just plain more efficient to hire an expert than to spend countless hours spinning our wheels not making progress. Another common request we receive is for a special gift. We receive many requests to complete family history research as a Christmas gift, birthday gift, anniversary gift, Mother's Day, Father's Day, we often get requests. Family history research is such a personal and memorable gift, and it'll be cherished for generations to come. So it really does make an ideal gift for a loved one. Okay, so how to find the best fit. When you're searching to hire a professional, Google is often the first place you may turn. It's important to note search intent as you begin your search. Searching for the term genealogist will yield very different results than if you search generically for the term genealogy, for instance. You can also do a specific location search, for instance, Ireland or Hire Genealogist Ireland. Just keep in mind that a specific location isn't necessary if you're hiring a worldwide firm such as Legacy Tree. You can just try something more generic like Hire Genealogist. Keep in mind the difference in paid versus organic results. So you'll see here the little green indicator for ad, and you'll see that shows up as a paid result versus organic results, which won't have that notation. Okay, another great place to look is aggregate sites such as the Association of Professional Genealogists, the International Commission for the Accreditation of Professional Genealogists, or Board Certification for Genealogists. Sorry, I can't put those out. On these sites, you'll be able to browse genealogists based on geographic location. Another great place to look is for referrals at local genealogical societies or genealogy-related companies. For instance, Legacy Tree Genealogists is the recommended research partner of industry leaders such as MyHeritage and 23andMe, and you'll find links to them from their sites that will take you to our landing page. Okay, so how do you find the best fit? So what's the difference between hiring a solo contractor versus a full-service genealogy research firm? So a general contractor usually only covers a few geographic locations. They are generally only familiar with a few languages. You'd have an individual one-on-one relationship with them. There's typically no additional formalized quality control. You may have a longer research queue simply because they're a one-man job just trying to do all of the research projects they receive. Okay, and then a full-service genealogy research firm usually has the ability to cover many geographic locations, can provide support in multiple languages. Many will have a dedicated genetic genealogy team. They usually have more branding, so you can do more research and you'll find more information out about that company online. They also have more formalized processes for quality control. The queue length is usually split among many team members instead of just one single person. And there's team collaboration, so you get access to many areas of expertise and different viewpoints that can be involved in your research project. So how do you evaluate the genealogist that you're considering? Unfortunately, it's not as easy to tell if your friend hired a good genealogist as it is to tell if your friend hired a good hairstylist. So how do you find a good one? If you need to hire a professional, there are 3 tools that will help you to evaluate: work samples, credentials, and reviews. Just as a side note, we've been evaluating genealogists since 2004 as we look to expand and hire people for our team. So we have some good pointers on what makes a good genealogist versus an okay genealogist versus one you should just plain avoid. So let's talk about work samples. At Legacy Tree Genealogists, we've been evaluating potential genealogists to hire for a long time and have learned a lot about how to evaluate work samples to determine a genealogist's skill level. When you're hiring someone, ask them for samples of prior reports. They should have obtained permission or created at least a few samples to help potential clients evaluate them. Here are a few of the samples we provide our potential clients, and you can view these on our website at legacytree.com/services. We give them samples from many different geographic locations and time periods. Here's some for the US, the UK, Belarus, and some focus on DNA adoption research. And again, you can check that out at legacytree.com/services. Okay, when you're evaluating a genealogist's work samples, ask yourself these 2 questions. Can this person A, adequately provide genealogical proof, and we'll get into what that entails in just a moment, and B, can they spend their time in an effective and efficient way? So what is genealogical proof? The Genealogical Proof Standard was formalized in 2000 by the Board for Certification of Genealogy. Okay, this GPS standard includes reasonably exhaustive research. So they've looked at all pertinent sources accessed for information. Informative source citations, so that sources can be evaluated or obtained in the future. Analysis of sources to assess their usefulness as evidence. So some sources are more valid than others. And resolution of conflicts between evidence and then the proposed answer. And then a written statement supporting the answer. Research should follow a plan that makes the best use of the researcher's time. Generally, this will involve a broad search first for information readily available via the internet, followed by a more specific search on microfilm or in repositories on site. So basically, you want to make sure that they're looking at low-hanging fruit first and then going into more depth research. But beware of research that utilizes only internet sources. Generally, this indicates a lack of motivation to really track down clues. A great researcher is willing to call your ancestor's funeral home or contact a parish priest to track down something that isn't online. So basically, you want someone that can think outside of the box and is willing to go that extra mile, track down the answers that you need, leaving no stone unturned. So ask yourself, do you feel comfortable with this researcher's pace and GPS? Do they skip too much? Do they take too long to reach a conclusion? And do they listen to your input? Those are all important things to consider as you're looking at hiring a professional. Another thing you want to evaluate is the credentials. There are many different types of genealogical credentials, and they all have a slightly different focus. On legacytree.com/about, you can learn more about the credentials of our team. But some of the different credentials you can look at is, are they a CG, a certified genealogist, AG, accredited genealogist? Do they have a bachelor's degree in family history research? Do they have a genealogy certificate from someplace like Boston University? Or, how many years of experience? There are also many places that review companies, and some genealogists have chosen to accept public reviews. And that's a pretty good indicator of, client satisfaction, is that social proof aspect of those online reviews. So here's just a few different places that you can get reviews from. Better Business Bureau. Okay, so this is an important one to check. They are established in 1912 to encourage truth in advertising. You can easily pull up reviews for a company by searching Google for the company name, followed by BBB reviews. So here's just the BBB profile for Legacy Tree Genealogists. In the Reviews and Complaints tab, you can see how many positive, neutral, and negative reviews there are, and how long they've been in business, and then their overall rating. Another place to look is Facebook. Facebook is a great resource for reviews. just click on that reviews tab in the menu, and I've got it shown there with a little arrow. Here's an example of a review that we received on our Facebook page. She says, I'm quite terrible at expressing my feelings. I'm not quite sure how to express my gratitude. I am extremely happy with the results that have been produced. I know how hard it is to find records in India. I was quite pleased you even got as many as you did. I just want to thank everyone who is involved in my family history project. I treasure it all, and a special thank you to Ellie, who would have been her project manager. I definitely will recommend Legacy Tree Genealogists to anyone and everyone. If in the future I decide I want to know more, I will definitely come to Legacy Tree. Thank you. Again, we just love hearing reviews and feedback from our clients like that. It makes what we do so fulfilling. Okay, here's another place to look, Google. You can Google reviews, and Google has a place where you can look at all the reviews that have been submitted. You can see Legacy Tree has a 4.8 out of 5-star rating with 67 Google reviews. And here's an example of a review from Google. Martin Chavez, he says, I particularly appreciate the way that Legacy Tree agrees with its clients a crystal clear set of measures of success and then delivers on those measures promptly. Total professionals. And so what Martin's alluding to there is that when you hire Legacy Tree Genealogists, you're assigned your own project manager. And one of the first things you'll do with your project manager is determine a concise research goal. And it's agreed upon word for word, so there's no gray area or confusion about what you're wanting us to research. And so that's what Martin's talking about there, and that's the review there. Okay, so how do you make the most of a professional's time? So most importantly, you have to set clear expectations. You need to provide a clear goal, which is something that I talked about that Martin was mentioning in his review. And then you need to set a budget for time, expenses, and miscellaneous fees. You need to provide background information. Okay, so setting expectations. So you need to understand how professionals bill and work. So most professionals like to work in blocks of time between about 10 to 40 hours. And this will give time that will include report writing, administrative time, and it also often includes communication time between the client. You also have to understand the time period being researched and what's really realistic. Research after 1850 will move faster than research before 1850, nearly worldwide. You also have to be familiar with the location. If an ancestor was an immigrant and you have a proven town of origin, you can get several generations back in one block. If you don't, you can spend several blocks narrowing down just that location. And that's really an imperative part of the research process, is finding that town of origin. If your ancestors were from an area with no online or microfilmed records, someone will have to visit the archive for you. So that on-site research, again, where it comes into play, where it's important that you have access to on-site researchers all over the world. In some parts of the world, archives focuses on preserving records, not sharing them. Order one day, look the next. Order only up to 5 records per visit, no copies, etc. So you just have to be familiar with what the regulations are for that particular archive. Early U.S. research is actually one of the least straightforward places to research because of our lack of reliable church records. In many parts of the early U.S., there was no recording of birth or baptism. You also have to prepare yourself for negative results. This is a progress and provides additional clues, so it can be discouraging. And we have a blog article on our blog that talks about the upside of negative results. And basically, it's like, even if it wasn't the results you were hoping for, it should bring you one step closer because you've eliminated one path to follow or pursue in your research process. All right, you also have to be familiar with brick walls. If you've been working on a brick wall off and on for 5 years or so, think about the total time you may have spent. Although a professional may work more efficiently because she does this over and over and over again, there will be a lot of time involved making sure the case is well understood, and this will involve revisiting some of the records you've already visited. So fishing out clues and compiling circumstantial evidence just to leave no stone unturned. So if it's something that's taken you a great deal of time, it will also take a professional some time to review what's been done and look at other alternative paths for pursuing. Keep in mind that often we have to wait for ordered records. It takes time to visit archives. You have to keep in mind a research queue and where you fall within that. If the researcher is good, they'll have a queue. We do rush projects for this reason. So Legacy Tree does offer the option to do a rush project, which bumps you to the front of the queue if time constraints are an issue for you. I included this quote from Alice in Wonderland. It says, which road do I take? And the Cheshire Cat says, well, where do you want to go? And Alice says, I don't know. And the cat says, then it doesn't matter. And genealogy research is the same way. Quality research takes time and money. Being concise with your goals matters, and a professional will help you create concise, realistic goals. First is putting it in writing. An email is fine. Giving your researcher as clear and straightforward a goal as possible is imperative. What may be clear to you may not necessarily be clear to someone else. Of course, we get scattered goals all the time, and part of our job is to help a client determine what he wants and to create clear, concise goals. But if you do that ahead of time, you'll be more assured of success regardless of who you hire. For example, if you want previous research to be verified, does that mean the researcher should just be checking for glaring errors, or does that mean you want each fact documented, sourced, and verifiable? Do you want detailed research on each ancestor's life, or do you want the researcher to focus on extending the line as quickly as possible? So all of those things will be determined as part of your research project. Hey, you also want to set a budget, and that can be time as well as money. So time, will there be a specific end time? Professionals have just as hard a time putting down a good research hunt as you do. Will you be billed for any extra time they spend? We cut our bill off at the time the client specified unless we get permission, and sometimes we spend extra without billing the client. So that's just something that we have to communicate with the client so that they know that we end when their research time ends. Also, different researchers may charge a little differently, but maintaining the research momentum by ordering in large chunks of research time or on an ongoing basis will prevent the starting and stopping that could eat up precious research time. It's actually better to put a lot of money on a case all at once than a little every few years, as long as you're working with a really good, trustworthy researcher. Also, staying out of the professional's way throughout the research is another way to make the most of a professional's time. Establishing communication expectations up front is important and will prevent precious research time being diverted to communication time. Different researchers will have different preferences for communicating, so stick with whatever is agreed to. So if email is what is discussed originally, then let's stick to email rather than making phone calls and taking up additional research time with back and forth communication. Another thing that's important to discuss as you're setting the budget is, of course, expenses. Are records part of the project cost, or are they billed separately? Will you owe any additional fees at the end of the project? And then discuss miscellaneous expenses with whomever you're looking at hiring. And that may include transportation, parking, phone charges, copies, who covers what. Make sure that's outlined and there's no gray area when it comes to your contract. Okay, another important part of hiring a researcher is providing background information. There's nothing worse than hiring a professional and getting back information that you feel was something that you already submitted, but making sure that the researcher has everything at the front or the beginning of your project is imperative to success. That could be records, making sure that your information is organized. Don't just send a box of random things to your genealogist and tell them to go through it, because that's going to take up project time and eat up valuable time that could have been spent on research. So having everything organized beforehand is key to success for your project. Family lore and additional information. So you may question whether or not it's important to send that information over, and we say yes. Do include any family lore you've heard. Do expect some highly distorted truth. A pro will flesh out those leads and find document evidence to either support or refute those family stories. And do include family ethnicity, religion, important details like that, because it really can help steer the research project with those small details that may be overlooked. So know the difference in records and which are most valuable, both to provide to your genealogist and what you should receive. Abstract, a condensed version of a record, preserves important details but not everything. Transcript, an exact copy of a record, preserves punctuation, spelling, and content, but then an original copy provides a copy of the original record. So a professional genealogist should be organized and provide you with research logs, a GEDCOM or online tree, and document sound, such as digital and hard copy options. Expectations, what should you anticipate receiving from a professional genealogist? End result will be a detailed report on your ancestors and a detailed family tree with more details than you had before. Keep in mind, results will vary widely based on time period, location, and quite frankly, luck. We can help you find unknown ancestors. We can go in depth and find the stories that will bring your ancestors' history to life. We can complete thorough DNA analysis and answer research questions that may be historical DNA or unknown parentage. We can also provide research as a special gift for a loved one. This one's from Martin Mary. It says, "What a wonderment it is to gaze upon what I can only describe as a feeling of majesty, my lineage. I was extremely happy with what was found and have instructed them to go further back along the paternal line." And it's feedback like that that really just makes what we do every day so fulfilling. So if you're ready to tackle your genealogy brick walls, you can request a free quote on our website at legacytree.com. Also be sure to check out our blog at legacytree.com/blog for free research articles and tips written by our team of professional genealogists. And good luck with your research endeavors.